What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show where we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg, and this is my cool friend, Pete Hines. Don't clap for yourself. I told you on the last one, don't do that.
Did I applaud for myself last time?
You did, yeah. I went back and looked at it today because I was trying to figure out how long it's been since you were on proper Kind of Funny content.
How long has it been?
The answer, February 2017.
3 years.
3 years,
Where
Pete
the hell
Hines,
was
since you've been busy, I guess. You have a lot of different stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Now, let me check my notes here, Pete. It says you are Senior Vice President of Global Marketing / Communications at Bethesda.
Sounds right.
Pulled that off your Twitter bio. I figured that'd be the most up-to-date information.
Seems accurate.
How you been?
Good. How about you?
Good. It's been a long 3 years since I saw you.
It has.
It does me well to have you in the room.
Did we check? Can I ask now? Are we recording?
We are recording. This is live. This is it. You know what I mean?
Are we recording?
If you don't
actually
remember,
saving?
If you do not remember, first off, it's required of you to go back and watch Pete on the Gamescast, February 2017, because we talk about your career there, how you got started, all that jazz. We're not going to cover that ground again. We'll talk about video games, what's to come, what's happened, everything else.
Right.
However, it was notable because you were part of the worst Kind of Funny video disaster we've ever had.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. We recorded an entire Gamescast. It was me, Colin, Tim, and you. And then as soon as we were done, we stood up and Kevin went, "Oh fuck." And we're like, what? And it looked, and sure enough, there had been a blip, and like a hard drive just ate itself and erased the entire episode. And you, being such a cool friend, came back the very next day to record a one-on-one with me. And it was funny. I rarely go back and watch old content.
Yeah.
Especially stuff I do. Going back and watching it today because I think I've covered his career.
You watched it and you thought he was better the first time.
No, hell no. It was the fact that we talked in there about like how rare it is that you're in San Francisco.
It
you
is.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it was that you didn't get down on the technical stuff. You were happy to support us, and you always would and stuff. And it was weird to have this time capsule of how rare it is that you're here. You're in San Francisco. 3 years later, the evidence of it, right?
Yep.
That this is legitimately
Very
the
true.
first time you've been back with any free time
I think
to do
so.
stuff.
I mean, I don't even know if I've been back since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I don't know what it would have been for.
What are you back for now?
Get an update from Sony on new console stuff.
Oh, cool. What do you know so far? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff out there. It's all very public, so you can tell us whatever you want to say.
Sony's doing a new console.
Oh, whoa, what's it called? Do you have a logo or any chance? Pete,
Yeah.
the main question I want to start with here,
Okay.
and it's a big one, all right?
right.
How terrified of Animal Crossing are you?
And none.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing is setting itself as an example of how games should interact and work together, not against.
Yeah.
And again, entirely due to the communities first and foremost.
Yeah.
The fans.
I think it was IGN or Kotaku. Somebody put up an article this week that was like
IGN did. Yeah.
Doom and Animal Crossing Doom and Animal Crossing fans have the most unlikely friendship.
Yeah.
And it was all the fan art and stuff and all
It's
this
really
different
well
stuff.
done too. Yeah. It's great.
Well, I think it's funny because those games, obviously Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing, speak to different audiences, but still the Venn diagram of game fans is so tight on that I think so many people are interested in Animal Crossing, so many in Doom Eternal, that you can be legitimately into both.
Yeah.
And be ready to go.
Yeah. Well, and in fairness, for a long time, we weren't really relevant to Nintendo fans because we never put out games on there. So they weren't really ever paying attention to Bethesda, at least not as it related to what's coming out that I might play.
Yeah.
And with the Switch, we've been able to do a lot more where they actually are interested in hell, maybe they're making games for us, which we are.
Yeah. And so now it's just one happy community over
Big
there.
happy community.
Yeah, exactly. Where are you at / Bethesda at right now so close to Doom Eternal? Like, is it all done? It's in the can. It's gold. You don't have to worry about it. Is it?
Oh no, it's never done. I mean, even if you're done with getting it certed or any day one stuff, day zero stuff that you might have to do, you're already working and figuring out what you're doing post launch.
Yeah.
And there's a million things going on right now. Curveballs always get thrown at you left and right that you got to sort of scramble and deal with. As we were talking about before, we are going to E3 and we're already in oh crap, in addition to launching this, we also have to be working on E3 and we've got Wastelanders for 76 and a new ESO chapter. So we're busy right now.
You're always busy. That's one of the things. I rarely look at my notes when I'm in here, but I wanted to make sure I had some kind of idea on what had come out and I could explain to people in 3 years games that have come out from you, right?
Okay.
Because it's fun to go back and watch and hear you tease stuff that hadn't even been announced yet and was going to happen, right?
Okay.
So since February 2017, and this is not a comprehensive list, all right? So don't throw it in my face.
By the
when
way,
I forget stuff.
I guarantee you, I couldn't get more than 3 or 4 of these right if you dared me to.
The first bullet point I put was a million ESO updates.
Yes.
Because there's always something happening with Elder Scrolls Online. Prey, May 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Evil Within 2, October 2017. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, October 2017. Doom VFR, December 2017. Fallout 76, November 2018. Wolfenstein Youngblood, July 2019. Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, July 2019. Rage 2, May 2019. And then for the upcoming stuff that we know about, right, that's coming up, Doom Eternal, March 20th, 2020. Fallout 76 Wastelanders update, April 7th, 2020. And then I have on here, of course, Ghostwire Tokyo, Deathloop, Orion, your streaming platform, or your streaming technology you're working on.
More ESO stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, there's more ESO
Did
stuff.
Did you say Deathloop?
I did. I put Deathloop
and Ghostwire, yeah.
Yeah. And then
and then all the stuff you don't know about.
Of course, yeah. But this, again, you're going to reveal it right here, right? You know what I mean? Tell me more. I mean, that's the thing. Like, because you guys obviously come out, you do this press conference every year. Deathloop. Come on now. What a trailer that was.
Did you like it?
I loved that trailer. Yeah.
Good.
Dave Fennoy in it too. I know you probably can't confirm it, but I know Dave Fennoy's voice better than anybody. He's in there doing it.
Yeah.
When do we have to wait till E3? Is that going to be the time to hear more about that, or any exciting properties you have to talk about?
It's a safe bet you'll hear a lot more
Yeah.
about it at E3. Whether or not there might be a little something before now and then.
Yeah.
Who's to say? But
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think you're going to be pleased. I think you kind of dig the arcane stuff. Like they're sort of like, and they're doing some really, really cool stuff with that, where it feels pretty familiar, but then also like, hey, they're trying to sort of do some things different.
Well, I like how I thought the trailer for Deathloop, and again, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys haven't expanded on it since then, really. So I think that I'm in the right ballpark of watching it. Like, the trailer gave the vibe of the game so well, right? Of this like grindhousey, like almost 70s like flick kind of thing, right?
Tarantino,
exactly.
It's a big thing for us.
But then like even the idea that it looks like you guys were so clear calling it first person action, that it's going, and it's this idea that it looks like you die and die and die until you figure out what's going on this island, until you get off of this area, right? And that sounds so cool, and I can't wait to find out if it is all from what my idea is that I'm switching back between perspectives of these two different characters you showed in the trailer. I know you won't say anything.
I won't.
But I that sounds awesome, and that sounds really cool. And like, I don't think it's rare that a trailer comes out and is so good to get that much juice behind it. Where I mean, like people ended and Deathloop was like, oh my god, that's like game of the.
Which I mean, usually the stuff. I mean, like, I thought the Doom stuff showed really well, but you had already seen something on Doom. It's usually the stuff that, like, I've never heard of this, and then my first impression, and I'm like, okay, I definitely want it. Yeah, that's usually the stuff that you get the most buzz about.
Well, that's the trouble with E3, right? Everybody wants to be surprised.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go into the press conference, and it's always, all right, cool, we know these 3 things are going to happen, but what do they do to fill the rest of the 45 minutes or the hour?
Right.
Yeah. And you're already filling that hour right now, right?
Yeah.
Is an hour confirm an hour? Yeah.
I have no idea.
At any point, have you guys thought about leaving E3?
No.
Yeah. Have you been surprised that everybody else is still like, E3's dead, it's over, I'm going off to do my own thing?
I have now been at Bethesda for over 20 years. Last October was my 20 anniversary.
Congratulations.
I am never surprised by anything that happens in this industry anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, it has all happened in some way, shape, or form before. So, like, folks going their own way, or we're going to be there, we're not going to be there. Like, everybody's got to figure out their own way and what works for them.
I was going to say, in 20 years, I'm sure you've heard E3 is dead a few times.
I mean, I've been there when it was actually dead. Like
I was there too. Yeah, when Gamecock did the funeral
the
parade.
The post Santa Monica E3, where we were back in the convention center, but not on the show floor, and we were only in meeting. Like, that was the weirdest. That was when we did hands-on for Fallout 3.
Yeah?
Yeah, up in meeting rooms. It was just a handful of us and a bunch of stuff, and people walked in and we're like, all right, you got 55 minutes, go play Fallout. And they're like, what?
That's the demo?
Yeah, like, yeah, that's it, go. So I remember being at that E3 going like, okay, this might be the actual end.
Yeah.
But it, I think it's going to constantly need to challenge its own assumptions and reinvent itself. I think it's probably in need of some of that now.
Sure.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see where it goes.
That doesn't change your course, though, right? Like, for you guys, you have to come out and make your show, your press conference, your lineup.
I mean, we're going to have a booth, and we're going to do a showcase again this year and talk about what we have to talk about.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, since you can't talk about the future because you're being rude. and selfish. All right?
Sorry.
Just let you know. It's okay. You wanted to come on the show. You come on. You got nothing to say. You want to tell me about Deathloop. It's fine. Let's talk about what's happened since 2017.
Okay.
It's been a tumultuous time at points. Not obviously throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
What would you say has been the biggest takeaway since you were last on this show in February 2017?
What was the biggest takeaway? I don't know if I have one.
Okay.
Is that bad? That's a really bad answer.
No, because it's a super nebulous question. That's why I like to see what you do with it. Because I think when we're on there and we're talking about Fallout 4 and stuff.
My general approach is that life can be a bit of an ass kicking.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's not all going to work right or go well. And you're going to take some lumps and you just got to learn from it and try and adapt and improve and keep going. And I hope we've done well to learn from our successes. And I really hope we've done well to learn from our missteps and goofs. And that's all you really can do.
Sure. How hard is it to embrace that lesson when you're in the shit? Because that was the thing about it, right? I think in the February 2017 Gamescast 101, we're talking about it, and we are talking. I think one of the questions I said to you is like, how did Bethesda get to this point? And I meant it, and we had this whole conversation about how 2015 was your first press conference. Suddenly, you guys were on the map in terms of we are going to be taken seriously as a publisher and developer in that regard, and then. It was that riding high wave of like how much people love Fallout, how much people love Elder Scrolls, how much Skyrim, they're buying merch, they're doing these different things. And then I would say not that that's gone away, but it's been challenged, right? Like I remember when Fallout 76 happened and everything was going wrong, it seemed, and every day there was something else in the news.
Sure
that
felt
was
like
oh
it.
God.
Yep.
Like, did you understand in those moments? Like, did the team get in those moments of like, we just got to persevere, we got to get through this?
Yeah. It was a lot of it. It was a lot of, take a deep breath. Like, okay, what do we need to do? What do we need to change? And honestly, we're still trying to change and evolve and improve. But there's nothing else for it but working on it and trying to solve it. Don't get me wrong. Like, we do a fair amount of complaining and yelling at the walls and whatever. But at the end of the day,
that's part of the process, right?
You like Mr. Rogers says in Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, you bang on the keys on the piano a few times and like, all right, let's you got to fix it. You got to work on it.
Yeah.
And I think it was definitely a reminder that anytime you try and do something pretty different, like we knew that there was risk with that, right?
Sure,
like we weren't just doing the safe and narrow, like let's just churn out single player Fallout, Elder Scrolls games every year or every other year, or do these things, right? We tried something that was a pretty big change of direction for that studio, and just because it didn't go well doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. It just means you need to learn the lessons from when you did it, what didn't work well, so that the next time you try something really different, hopefully you avoid some of those problems and issues.
Sure. Do you guys feel like you've learned that? Is that what Wastelanders is?
Certainly to some extent. It's a lot of our belief was always, well, we're going to put this thing out and then see what folks like and don't like, and what they want more of and what they want less of. And Wastelanders is definitely a response to that. There's definitely things that players have done that we just didn't really think would happen. Like the fact that by and large folks just aren't all that interested in PvP.
Yeah.
With each other does PvP, but like that they really enjoy more either just interacting in some way, like going to visit each other's camps.
Sure. You guys you put vending machines in, right? So you can sell the items you're crafting.
And to do more stuff like building has become a really big thing. People build these great. There's a homeowners association now for the Wasteland where they go around and do all kinds of stuff. So stuff like that we just weren't really sure. Like, well, we think we got to come up with this whole system to deal with people trying to PvP with each other, and it turns out, like, by and large, that just rarely happens.
Sure.
There's some folks that do, but folks just.
But the majority of what you're seeing, right? Yeah.
Wastelanders is a big effort to try and address any number of the things that loud and clear folks definitely want. Where's my NPCs? Where's my dialogue and my choices?
And companions.
Those kinds of things. So. And again, not just in what it has, but the way we're doing it. So, we did make the choice to move it out of last year into this year. But we've changed our whole dev process. Like, we've had tons of PC Fallout 76 players playing on our PTS for a long time. Like, basically since the beginning of the year, we've been adding folks in and letting them take characters and play this content a lot. And not, like we did the beta test before 76, but we posted it. It was a few hours here and there. This is like, nope, just play the game. It's up all the time. Jump in and play and tell us what you think. So trying to, again, to your point, like, well, let's learn from what we didn't do well last time and try.
So is the mentality there for 76 with the on again, off again? That was like, hey, our stress test, can you break this?
Yeah,
this is like, hey, do you like the content?
That was more right. Like, what happens when this many people hit play at the exact same moment? Not that that's no longer a thing we worry about, but for Wastelanders, it was much more like, how does it feel? How do you like this? And like, what little things are you finding that we haven't found? And let's build in time to address and fix those. So, so far the response seems to be really good. But like I said, you're never done working on it. You're never done fixing and
totally.
Improving. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's also your commitment to that service, right? I think, there's always, whenever one of these games as a service launches, right, something that's online focused, there's that conversation of, well, if it goes wrong, are people going to back off? Are they going to bury it? Or are they not going to do it? Mm-hmm. Like, I have to imagine from the get-go working on this, there was a plan of, if it's not successful, we're still committed to it for X amount of years or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, no question, it definitely was informative that a lot of us had been through Elder Scrolls Online as an experience, right? Not necessarily the folks at the studio making the game, but the rest of us in publishing that had worked on it. Like, that was a PC-only launch that did not go as well as we hoped. There was a lot of like, well, this isn't Skyrim, and this isn't what I'm used to in an Elder Scrolls game. And that team had to put in a ton of work to evolve the game, change things that players didn't like, whether it was sort of the separation of folks at different levels or those kinds of things. And having been through that sort of prepared us for, you don't just quit because it's not going well. You don't just quit because people are unhappy. You got to put in the time and effort to fix the things that need fixing and to make the game better. And I think we've done that. And, we look at ESO, it's over 15 million people now have bought and played that game. Like, well, that's the kind of thing you aspire to, is let's keep improving and fixing it. And the better we make the game, the better the chance that people will come and give it a try and hopefully like it.
This will sound like a loaded question. It's not. Why make those kind of games? And I don't mean because they don't have a place. I mean, like, you're entering a gauntlet, especially with ESO behind you, right? Of like, that launch didn't go the way you wanted to. You had to tweak and do this stuff.
Right.
To take Fallout, to do that, to get ready to do it. And the way I would imagine, right, like, take a deep breath and hit it. Like, we know, like, everybody I talk to for any MMO, any online game knows that on day one, it's not going to be the experience they want on day 100, on year 3, so on and so forth.
Yep.
Like, why put yourself and the team through that? Or more for the team, because I know you're not sitting there with a giant cigar going, make this game, man.
That is absolutely correct. I mean, the main reason was that the studio felt like multiplayer and a shared experience was something that was brought up the most by folks who play Elder Scrolls games and Fallout games that they made, and they wanted to expand a little bit and try something different, not to the exclusion of ever making the kind of games that they're known for, right? Which was why they announced Starfield when we talked about others, because we wanted folks to understand, look, we're going to make another single-player epic role-playing game. We're not done with that. We just wanted to try something that was more shared and online to see what that was like, so that we have that experience, so that if down the road we ever want to try it again, like, well, we have some experience with this kind of thing. Otherwise, you do get pigeonholed into, like, I'm only ever making this kind of game. I mean, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but you don't get Horizon Zero Dawn if that team sticks to what they were known for and had always made. They pivoted and tried something that I think is substantially different than what they had made before, and it's one of my favorite games of the last 5 years. And so I mean, you're hoping that when you try something risky and different that you end up with Horizon Zero Dawn and not with a lot of bumps and issues, but that doesn't mean you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Sure. And I have to imagine, like you're talking about, right? Like, double-edged in a couple of ways where on the one hand, yeah, keep making the same kind of thing, the same single-player role-playing epics, right? And everybody's happy until they're not. Until they sit there and you become Telltale, right? And it's like, it's the same thing again. It's the same engine. It's the same whatever. We're all mad about that, and now we're going to public opinion swing on that.
Right.
But also there's what you're talking about of you have creative types making creative games and wanting to, I assume, branch out and do different things.
Stretch their legs a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you keep them boxed in, then what happens to them? They leave, they go to a different studio, they start their own.
Sure. I mean, the same argument could be made, like, well, why bother making Starfield when you know what everybody wants is the Elder Scrolls 6? Well, it's a combination of things, not the least of which is the studio wanted to work on something else that wasn't just the 2 IPs that they had been developing exclusively since I joined in 99. And Starfield allows them to do that.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, right?
Yeah.
So then Fallout 76, Wastelanders, coming in April.
Yep.
Is that the next big test, or are you already building stuff thinking based on what you've already heard from the test servers and what you're doing here with Wastelanders? Is that the idea going forward now that this is a more shared world PvE in a way? Like I can still PvP if I want to, but mainly me and my friends.
I would definitely say that the team is already taking into consideration the feedback that they've gotten over the last, whatever it is, 14, 15 months since launch, that it is going to look that they have a pretty good idea. We're going to be talking a lot about it in the next week or two and laying out some roadmap stuff, but it will be even more of the kind of stuff that we think people want.
Okay.
Factions, stories, NPCs, cool choices. Hey, I put a lot of time and effort into building up this special, and now the level of that special gives me a cool dialogue option talking to this person that allows me to do this other outcome that I couldn't have gotten otherwise.
Yeah, one of the things I pulled, right, because I want to talk about this, obviously, but like one of the quotes you guys had put out about it, right, was like, uncover the secrets of West Virginia by playing through an all-new main quest as well as a revamped original main quest line with friends or solo, starting from the moment you leave Vault 76. I'm a lapsed player, right? I jumped in, played a bunch. I came back at E3 really briefly. I was like, oh my God, this runs so much better. Right. And then you announced Wastelanders, and my whole thing was like, stop, I'm going to wait for that.
Yep.
For this one, is for it to be, a new revamped main quest line, original main quest line. Is that me rolling another character, or is that me taking my character back through?
It depends on whether you've done the main. So if you've done the main quest, you've done the main quest. The stuff that Wastelanders adds So basically, when it comes out, if you're a lapsed player like yourself, you can take your character and play the story of Wastelanders.
Okay.
And do that. If you haven't done the main quest, you can also do more of that.
Okay.
But the thing that you're really going to be like, yeah, this is kind of the new thing that I came for is Wastelanders, which is supposed to be for lapsed players, existing players, brand new players.
Okay.
But if you're a brand new player, or you just want to re-roll a character and start from scratch, which we see a healthy number of people on PTS doing, including myself, by the way. They're like, oh, do you want us to move over a character for you? I'm like, no, I want to do the whole, I wake up in my room in the vault and start from scratch. I'm going to do a different build this time around and maybe focus on some different things I didn't the first time. It's designed for all that, but I think you really do get the most out of it with a new character because everything is new and different. Not just the story, by the way. I'm not used to there being a thing right here when I go down this road and all of a sudden this house that used to just be an abandoned house has now been taken over and there's settlers in there and I can go talk to them.
Yeah.
And, I find that makes it pretty interesting. You're rediscovering everything all over again.
Yeah, that's my interpretation, and at least my headspace has been that I'm going to roll a new character.
It'll be a mix.
When I jumped into E3 even, it was just like, wait, what was I doing?
Yeah.
And I have this half-built house, and I'm like, and what do I do with these things again? And
where
how
did
do I
leave
make my
off?
water? And it was like, I'm not
just start from scratch.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
But I definitely think it'll be a mix. Because look, you've got folks who play the game now 500, 600, whatever hours, and they have these really cool, interesting camps, or they've set up stuff where it's a theme, like I'm running a bar. That's what I'm doing. When I play the game, I'm running a bar for people to come by and have a drink. And so, they don't want to move off of this story that they're telling in the world. I don't want to go rolling. Or they'll do both, right? They'll jump in, they'll play with a new one, and then go back to their main and role play with that for a while.
Well, I mean, again, it's the kind of player who gets lost in these worlds, right? And I think for you guys in particular, right, this game that launched in a state you weren't happy with, certain players weren't happy with, everybody knew there could be...
I mean, we can go further than just certain players.
People weren't happy with
I'm pretty self-aware. Yeah,
I know you are.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't call you on here.
Yeah, it was more than certain.
All right, everybody hated and thought it sucked.
There was enough of those. Yeah.
But I still, subscribe to the subreddit, so I see all the updates. And the people who are in there who have put in thousands of hours, right, and have gotten to this point. And even when it was launched and not where people wanted it to be, the people that were doing their own role playing, right, that were walking around in groups and were giving out their own quests and sending people to do stuff,
right.
like, that shit's awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope that, like, with the Wastelanders and bringing more people in, that you get a second chance at having those kind of experiences and people coming in and seeing what that game is.
I hope so. And my belief is that the game will be all the better because we have this really dedicated, large group of fans that have stuck with us through all the bumps and the issues and keep playing, that have gone beyond what the game does to add to the game themselves in a way that feels really organic and interesting and unique beyond just what the devs or what we've added. So I think that'll be a fun additive thing. Like if it was only everybody was brand new, starting with Wastelanders, I don't think it would be as good. I think all of that content, plus the fact you have all these existing players who have carved out interesting stories or bases they build, or the guy that builds the death house where like you go wandering in and you just makes you die in really cool, interesting ways, and like then comes down and eats your corpse because he's got the cannibalism perk. Like I think that makes the game that much more.
Well, I mean,
more interesting.
Even when I was playing and like I'd sign on and go do something like Grimecraft, of course, world-renowned DJ. He was obsessed, and he'd run over to me, and he would have the coolest shit on. I'm like, where did you get any of this?
Right.
And he'd walk me over here and teach me this thing and do that. Like, you need that in these kind of games, right?
Well, and again, look, it's sort of what you're looking to get out. I mean, I've done things in 76 that I really never spent a lot of time doing in other role-playing games where, like, okay, I'm going to go explore this part of the world. I know there's a bunch of creatures and insects over there. I have no cure disease stuff right now. So, like, my whole session for that day, for the couple hours I played, was going around and getting the ingredients that I needed to craft cure disease potions.
Sure.
And because at least one of the ingredients is not particularly easy to find in large amounts. So you end up like traveling around the map and like, well, I know there's some here and I know there's some here. And while you're doing that, then you end up getting in these little fights and skirmishes and, oh, there's an event over here. And the next thing you know, 2 hours is gone. And like, well, but all I really did, or all I was trying to do, was make some cure disease potions. But that kind of felt like that's what I'm role-playing. I'm role-playing as a guy who's going to do this thing where I know I'm going to need this. And rather than just going to somebody and buying it, like I have to make it. And that's what my character is going to do today to survive in this world. That was fun for me. It may not be fun for everybody, in which case, well, then you probably should stick to the quests and the dialogue and the things that you might enjoy more. But for me, that's why I have continued to play it in my free time, because it allowed me to do stuff that I just sort of was able to lose myself in.
Sure. And I mean, that was, why I found myself playing it so much, was the idea of just wandering off. Why I play Fallouts in general, right? Is I want to know what's over that edge. I want to know what's down that cliff.
Which is certainly a big part of it. But as you pointed out earlier, like the things that Wastelanders is adding is also a big part of it, right? I don't just want to wander. Like, well, I also want to talk to NPCs and, have dialogue and have choices and don't get me wrong. It's not like, okay, now it's going to be Fallout 4. Like, that was a single player. You're the only person in the whole game that matters. You can't just entirely replicate that in 76, no matter how hard you try. Sure. You have to account for, well, Pete's playing the game and here comes Greg, and so I have to account for both of these players in this world. And but I think there's enough of that in there that folks will feel like, okay, this is the stuff I felt like was missing and that I wanted to see that just wasn't there. I wasn't getting from my Fallout game.
How much of games industry, podcasts, articles, whatever, chatter, do you pay attention to about Fallout 76 at this point? Because I feel like every conversation that comes up, it's going to talk about Anthem. It's going to talk about No Man's Sky. It's going to yeah.
I mean, if it's somebody that I know actually plays the game, then yeah, of course. Yeah. But if it's just like, here's somebody else putting up their video because they know it gets clicks, and like talking crap about 76 gets you lots of then like I have no interest. Like
Sure.
I'm interested in hearing from. I'd rather spend time on the subreddit. To your point, like people I know are playing the game and what problems they're having, what issues they're having, or folks on Twitter. Like when I see folks tweeting me, hey, what about this? What about that? Like, well, a lot of times I don't answer it because I don't know what the answer is, but I'll take that stuff and I'll send it to my community team, to dev, to be like, hey, do we know about this, or does CS aware of this issue, or whatever it is, just to sort of do what I think I can do the most, which is like, are we paying attention to stuff that matters? Is this a known thing? Has somebody reached out to this person? Is this something we're working on fixing? That kind of stuff.
Is that similar to Elder Scrolls Online when it launched? Because it's been that thing, right?
No. I mean, again, Elder Scrolls Online was not rainbows and unicorns. Like but it wasn't the same of like going way out of my way to just put up stuff bashing this thing because everybody will click on it. Whereas with Fallout 76, it was, whether that's because it was Bethesda Game Studios or because I don't know, but it definitely had a different a different tone and vibe than with ESO.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, it was like the easy punchline, right? You know what I mean? You don't have to reach for that yet. You know what I mean?
It has been.
Yeah. Has that changed your opinion of certain sites, YouTubers, whoever, or is that just what you always thought of?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, it was always pretty apparent. Like, well, they're going to say whatever they think is going to get a lot of people to watch their stuff, to subscribe, to click on. So not really.
Yeah. What has been the internal / audience, the hardcore, what you're seeing numbers wise reaction for Fallout First? Because I feel like that was in the same vein, right?
Yeah.
Where you guys announced Fallout First and everybody wants to shit on. And it's like, I remember being like, this seems, I don't play Fallout currently, so I don't know how much a private server is needed or what this, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Right.
It's always, what's something worth? It's what you're willing to pay. And what is the Fallout 76 audience willing to pay? I don't know.
Well, let's be clear. I mean, like anything, it was created for folks, for some percentage of our existing player base that we thought wanted that.
Yeah.
And you usually tend not to do these things in terms of raw numbers. You're usually looking at a percentage, right?
Yeah.
What percentage of our monthly active users do we think will be interested? Well, it's probably around here. We were above that number for the first month, and it's gone up every subsequent month since we put it out. All of the criticism and anger and so forth notwithstanding. But like I guess what doesn't really resonate with me much is like, well, how come you want X? Like, it's $100, and like I could get, Hulu only cost me this. Like, well, but I'm not asking you whether or not you want to subscribe to Hulu or you want to do this. I'm asking people who are playing a lot of Fallout 76 whether this is of value or not. And by the way, the $100, the reason they would want to do that is they say, I play so much Fallout 76. Yes, I would like to save $40 or $50 over what I would spend across the course of a year, because instead of paying whatever it is a month, I'm in for $100 and I'm saving money. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, why does anybody buy a car that's more expensive than the least expensive car out there? Like, well, because they're looking for something else, because they have different criteria in terms of what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So,
you guys ran headlong into a thing I had seen with season passes.
Yeah.
Where it had been that I remember when the Batman Arkham Knight season pass got announced, and it was like some costumes, there's going to be a Batgirl story thing, and a bunch of other stuff we'll tell you about later. And I was like, you have my money, good sir. Mm-hmm. And people who didn't play Arkham Knight or had no intention of ever doing that were so mad at this ambiguous season pass. And it was that argument of like, well, I get that season passes, DLC, whatever. You're a commentator, you're doing stuff, you have an opinion, but if it's not your game, it's so hard to have that opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Where I'm so stoked for Division launching on the 3rd, right? Of like, cool, and it's gonna have a battle pass. Here's my money. Mm-hmm. I want to play the Division every night and pay you to get different things out of it. Whereas other people, I'm sure, like, no way would I ever pay for it. And I'm like, I get that. That's the value of money and what you personally put in it.
Well, and it is a little different with what we're doing, because it's not just content. Like, we're signing up to make sure that you have a private server on demand 24/7, 365. Like that's what we're signing up for. Anytime this person decides they want to play the game on a private server, we have to have reserved space with somebody and spin that up instantaneously. at any given moment. Like, that's just different than like, hey, here's some content that anybody can get to, but if you want access to it, it costs this much.
Sure.
That is like I don't own part of the Amazon cloud. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to somebody else to say, I need to reserve this server so that this person can play whenever they want. And when you start multiplying that across a lot of folks, like, yeah, it's not going to be free.
Yeah.
But we also wanted to really make sure we were providing a good value to the folks that wanted to do it. The thing that, I mean, we struggled a lot with it anyway, in terms of my team and like, how is this going to come across?
You must have known not well.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, like, it's what we said, right? Like, Fallout 76 is like such a, okay, like, what are you going to do? How are you going to, who's going to make fun of it? What's going to happen?
I know I'm speaking to the right audience when I use this analogy, but like the scene in Ghostbusters where they're going to shut down the grid and he starts to walk away and like, I was like,
yeah, exactly.
Here it comes, buckle up. But, I think we learned some stuff and some things that we've talked about. The most important thing, my group, my department, that I want to make sure that we're doing is being good advocates from the dev in terms of getting information and sharing information as much as possible with our fan base, and then also being good advocates for the fan base to go back to dev and say, look, I know this is what you think or this is what you want, or maybe we can't talk about all the reasons why X, Y, or Z, but we also need to understand, like, here are the actual pain points. Because I do think, here or there are things maybe we've probably learned that we should do a little different when you do something like a Fallout first, in terms of like what's in there.
Communication.
Well, it's things like, if there's a particular thing that folks have been clamoring for, like, hey, I want this kind of skin or outfit, and then that thing ends up only in Fallout first. It's like, well, like,
that doesn't look good.
I mean, it adds value to the thing for the person that signs up for it. It's also a pretty feel bad moment where it's like, I don't want to play on a private server, but I do want that one thing, and like, WTF.
Yeah.
So, again, you never get it all right, no matter how well intentioned you are. But I have doubled and tripled my efforts to make sure that we're really going back and talking about these things sort of post-mortem, and to say, like, hey, how are we doing things differently now because of what we're seeing, and how do we sort of do right and always make sure we're doing what we can to meet or exceed our player expectations.
Sure.
I think that's one of the things, at least, that I can bring this of value to us as a company, is trying to understand and bridge a gap. And like, if you guys could just move over here a little bit, I think we could get them to move there, and everybody would be happy here.
Yeah, right. I feel like that's always been the answer to just about every problem in the industry, is just communication, right?
Yeah.
Both internally and externally. And I think you've seen that more and more with games as service, of when there's that idea of you're going to clam up and you're going to fix the game, and people think that you're not listening, that you've shut down on them.
Well, or there's things going on that just, there's no universe. You've talked about it 47 times internally. There's just no way you can take that out and say those things to the public.
Yeah.
Even though it gives significantly more context and information on why is this being done this way. Like, yeah, but we just can't. And we all agree, even though we've talked about it over and over. So we're just going to have to figure out, like, the best we can, how to message and get this out.
Can you give an example of that, or is that too close to? I mean, there's not enough time.
Honestly, not one that.
Listen, we didn't hire anybody to make the game.
Not one that would be the. That wouldn't be too much.
Damning. Yeah, sure, I understand. No, because I can only imagine, especially knowing you, and I think I might have even texted you when this was all happening, about like, hey man, I know this is rough right now.
It was when you were doing the Kind of Funny live. You were doing something, and I was gonna do. You had asked us to do like a little video thing,
and
I
you're
was
like, this is not the fucking
time.
time.
Nobody wants to see my face saying anything. Like, it's probably better for you, and it's probably better for me if we just stay out of this.
Yeah. And I was like, I get it, but it's like, I wanted you to understand, because I thought, like, again, going back to February 2017, we were talking about how Bethesda is like, boom, like this golden child. You're great to your fans. Everybody loves you. You know what I mean? And then to have this, I feel like, be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the first real stumble, right? In terms of like, oh man, they're not invincible, right?
Well,
outside of like Skyrim not running on PS3 because of cheese wheels and doors.
Yeah.
You know, that was like,
that small thing, which in retrospect, like probably seems minor and compared to 76.
Right.
I assure you, in the midst of going through that did not come across as minor. But
I know how you are, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about. Is like, you're a straight shooter. You're always coming on the show and you curse and you hang out and you're great. You curse on stage at press conferences. And it's that idea that I can only imagine what it was like to see all this stuff and like Bethesda lied to us and they didn't care and this was and you have to sit there and take it.
That gets to me the most.
Yeah.
Is the like, you lied to us. Like, it just bothers me because that's not, I guess, the main thing that I sort of beat the drum on in terms of how we're going to do things. But at the end of the day, it's also semantics. Like, if I told you something because, like, if I said, hey, Greg, I'm taking the Kind of Funny crew to Chuck E. Cheese on Saturday. It's going to be awesome. And you're all excited about going to Chuck E. Cheese. And then Friday I come down with the flu. I'm like, sorry, bud, we're not going. You know, I have boys. They're significantly older now. But when they were little kids, they'd be like, you lied. You said we were going to Chuck E. Cheese. Like, no, bud, I didn't lie. Like, I planned on taking you. Stuff
Situation has changed.
Right? At the end of the day, he's still mad. Whether I lied or he's just not going, he's mad. You know, if I tell you, hey, here's what I know that the plan is and what we're doing, and then down the road those plans change, I just got so much of the, like, you're a liar, and it just bothers me a lot because I know that's not how I approach things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, even if I convince you that I didn't lie, you're still going to be angry that we changed our minds. So what does it matter? And so I spent actually some amount of last year sort of working on learning not to take that as hard and as personal. Because that was the part I think that got to me the most, was just the point at which you feel like you're no longer a person, that you're a position, you're a job at this company.
Yeah.
Right. And anything that you say had better be about the job and the position. You're not allowed to be a sports fan. You're not allowed to be a dad.
How dare you watch this game when Fallout 76 isn't even working right now?
Or like, how dare you talk about, like, my wife is really into fostering dogs. We foster dogs a lot. We have one now, by the way, if you're interested.
Wiener dog?
She's a Puerto Rican street dog. We had a lot of those.
Okay.
She's adorable.
Okay.
But like, not allowed to talk about that because it's not like this thing that you did that I'm angry about, or like, why don't you get back to like fixing this?
Oh, you can tweet this, but you can't answer my question about what's going on.
Yeah. So, I stopped tweeting as a result of that. I was still on Twitter all the time because I felt like, well, I need to read everything that everybody is saying. I'm just not gonna bother responding because I don't think any of it's gonna help. But I've tried to use that to both do better about the way that I approach it as a person and the way that we approach it as a company, in terms of how are we doing a better job of communicating, of being more open, and hopefully avoiding some of the pitfalls that got people really pissed at us.
Sure. Yeah, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, in the long run, those trials and tribulations make it better, right? You
Yep.
learn from it. You get stronger. You understand a different aspect
Well,
of it.
people ask me a lot, like, what do you want to do in the next 5 years? Like, look, every year, every game in this industry is an entirely new thing. It's an entirely different organism that has its own challenges, its own opportunities. Like, it's not like you just like, hey, we did that pretty well. Let's just run that back again.
Do the exact same thing.
Yeah, that never works.
Yeah.
And I have ADD, so I would just get way too bored with that anyway. But it's always a different challenge. Like, how do you find the heart and soul of what this team is talking about and bring that to life in a way that people are going to get excited about and want it to play? Like a Deathloop or Ghostwire or Doom Eternal or whatever it is. Like, that is the fun and challenge. And if it was easy, anybody could. Shit, if it was easy, you wouldn't even need me. Like, why? Like,
game speaks for itself.
Right. I show it, everybody wants to play it, and job done. But, your wife, other folks have jobs because turns out it's not always
that hard to get that
easy.
message out to people,
Yep.
right? Except for Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal is just universally everybody loves. You didn't have to do anything for that, apparently.
It's really, really good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm super proud of the work that team has done to take something that I thought was so good in 2016 and really shift it in a way that has surprised so many people in a good way. Like, wow, I didn't think I could feel faster or more powerful or all of those things, but you've actually managed to do it. I think they've done just a absolutely phenomenal job.
And to your point too, I think, there's such a side of the industry that gets a bad rap, and also that the audience doesn't see, which is PR and events and teaching someone about a game, right? And for me, for Doom 2016, it was everybody talking about how great it was. It's amazing. You're going to love it. Got it. Popped it in. Played a few levels. I'm like, yeah, it's really pretty, but it's just killing. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm not really a part of it. Mm-hmm. And I will never forget, probably, I think one of the most impactful demos of my career was Judges Week, 2018, right? That checks out. It's 2020 now. 2019.
Last year, yeah.
When we sat down, and it was Doom Eternal was on one side, and we sat down, and the developers got up and they were
Hugo.
He's like, you're gonna die in this. You're gonna die over and over, and that is the point. Like, the point is to figure out to chain together. You're gonna go get this thing, and everybody else there, I think, really already understood that. And for me, it was such a light bulb moment of like, holy shit, I played Doom 2016 wrong. And I played that demo, and I had a great time, and I went home and started Doom 2016 again. I was like, fuck, I slept on this game because I didn't get it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I know that sounds silly, but like, games are
actually it doesn't at all. And to your point. One of the things we talk about a lot as a team, because we do like internal play sessions, just like within my department, not just folks who play Doom, but like I want the folks who are working on Fallout 76 and ESO to play Doom Eternal because they probably haven't.
Yeah.
And to find out where their friction points are and what they didn't understand, because we've talked about that loop that Hugo talks about is something like it's our job to make sure that as many players understand what that loop is and why it's so important for that very reason, which is if I'm dying and I don't know why I'm dying because the light bulb hasn't clicked on like, oh, there's this loop, and it matters how I finish off an enemy, whether I'm using this, or this is going to change what kind of stuff they're dropping and whether I need ammo right now or I need health, and just making sure that we as a publishing team understand how to help dev get that information out there, before the game comes out, when the game comes out, so that folks have like, oh, there's this loop. And everybody goes, you got to know the loop. And what's the loop? Oh, the loop is this. Yeah. Like, oh, okay. And then you get that light bulb moment of, oh, shit, I didn't even realize I was missing this one step that now ties it all together.
Well, it's that idea of just having it spelled out that you're going to die a lot, and that's not bad. You're not failing, right? This is part of the game. In the same way, like you play Super Meat Boy, you know you're going to die a million times, and that's fine. You don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. To jump in there and have that experience, like, I can't believe how wrong I got this because whoever at IGN passed me the disc, or I guess kind of funny, passed me the disc, and I was like, cool. All right, pop it in. All right, cool. Yeah, I get it. It's Doom. I've never been. I used to like Doom back in the day.
Right. It's not my thing now.
Yeah, and see the reinvention of it. Mm-hmm. And to your point, once Doom 2016 comes out, like, are you immediately thinking of how, or are they immediately thinking of what they can do in a sequel? And are you thinking that they can do that, or is it just going to become more of the same?
Not immediately, but by the holiday meeting that we do every year that year, they started to talk about like, here's what we're going to do next and how we're going to kind of grow and evolve this and do more of this, even more of this, address these areas. Because honestly, a lot of it at launch and post-launch was them just absorbing what are people saying. What are people saying on day one? What are they saying on day three? What are the things they like? What are the things they didn't like? What are the folks doing who continue to replay Doom 2016 over and over again? Like, how do we give them even more of what they want? How do we change the paradigm of what's fun about playing Doom? Like, how do we make them feel faster and more aggressive? Yeah. And so a lot of it was just like they were in absorption mode. And they talk a lot, if you talk to Marty and Hugo, they talk a lot about what players say, what press, what influencers, what folks like yourself say about playing Doom 2016 and how are we going to address and improve upon the areas that they liked, the areas that they felt like that they weren't quite where they wanted.
So now that we're here, it's releasing. It can't stop now, March 20th.
Right.
How was it hard to announce that delay? Like, what's it like to delay a game?
It's painful.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's a relief in the sense that you're not lobbying to delay a thing unless you know this is not ready.
Sure.
But you're still missing out on the holiday season. Like, this game last November would have done phenomenally. But at the same time, you have to appreciate, that's not what you were going to get. You weren't getting the game that launches on March 20th last November.
Yeah.
And the extra time that they've gotten to really polish and fine tune and do all of these extra things has gotten it to the point where we can feel like when Marty says this is the best game that studio has ever made in its history, we can all go, yeah, we agree. And we hope everybody else agrees. But there's no doubt in any of our minds when he says that, we're like, yep, it is for sure. Like the way all the corners are tucked in, and I think it's the best thing that they've ever made. And I hope everybody else thinks so too.
Wow. I want to go in two different directions with it, but I'm going to double back for 1 second to stick with me. It's something I should have asked, but now we're into delays. Why didn't Fallout 76 get delayed? Because you're saying, like, it's the relief of, okay, cool, it's not ready. Is that a kind of game that you guys felt needed to be out and learn in real time?
I think it was just more, it was not, we didn't see the same things that on Doom Eternal. It was much more clear.
Okay.
As it was on Fallout 76, where it just, it wasn't quite as obvious, like this thing needs more time. Now, you could argue whatever you want, what you should have, and so forth. Like,
I'm not here to argue.
I mean, yes, going back, yes.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yes, I wish we had known and would have. But every game is different.
Of course.
Yeah.
For the Doom delay, this is the other way. Now we're switching back to where I was originally questioning. Did you have to call Stadia? Who called Stadia and was like, Doom's getting delayed?
I don't remember. That wasn't me.
Yeah. Because that was always the thing when it got announced. I was like, oh my God, because I felt for Stadia, obviously, of like that was their big, hey, this is the thing. That's where, after Judges Week, that's where I played it at E3. I played it on Stadia, and I was like, holy crap, I can't believe Stadia is running this so well.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Have it your way. Oops. Well, whatever. Again, it's got to be now they got it.
It wasn't done on that. It's not like, well, we finished it on Stadia. We just haven't finished it on these other ones. Like, it's
Stadia
not
pounding on their desks.
It's not done.
Yeah.
It's not done on anything.
Okay, fine. Have it your way. March 20th coming up soon. Everybody's excited.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna kill it.
Hope so.
Talk to me, and I know you'll say nothing. Ghostwire.
Mm-hmm.
Is that gonna be awesome? Because that's another trailer you had last year that was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'm actually on both Deathloop and Ghostwire. I'm really excited for you to see the game itself.
Yeah.
I won't say anything now, but it does have an interesting parallel to Doom Eternal that I'll talk to you about once we show Ghostwire. That I'm curious if you picked up or noticed.
Look at this, everybody. Now this is a Deathloop time loop itself because this episode will go live after. But we have a picture now. All right, everybody. There's a picture in the Kind of Funny office,
here.
So you can drink as much water as you want and refill it.
Awesome.
It'll be a bitch for you in your water bottle, but whatever.
You
can sip out of my cup with me.
It'll
It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but I after you see it, I'll explain a little bit about. I'm sure we'll probably talk a little bit about where the connective tissue is between those two things. I'm curious if you did sense it or notice it. Think once I tell you what it is.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to talk to you
come
about
back to it
and when we get there, because I'm sure again E3 you'll tell us more about it probably. Yeah, okay, good, okay. You gonna tap your leg for us again? That's the thing. If you don't know, by the way, because not everybody watches our live reactions, I don't know why you still do it, but every year before the Bethesda conference, 5 years ago, we call you and you answer.
I don't know. It's cool. It's funny.
Last year was the year where we're like, go out and tap your leg, and you went out and you tapped your leg for us.
By the way, though, super close to not getting that on camera because the shot cut to another thing,
That's
and
the
like
risk.
you only got. But I did. But it was one of those things like, oh, what the hell? Like, this is literally the only reaction to our conference I watch is you guys, just to see like, I wonder what they thought. So like when you talk about Deathloop, like I watched you react to Deathloop and talk about it afterwards, and I knew you'd get a kick out of it if I did it, so I was like, what the hell?
It's my favorite recurring bit, I think, that you actually answer when we call you. Because it's always, all right, you about to go on stage? Like, yeah, I got the earpiece. And we're like, all right, cool. Don't screw it up.
No, I honestly, I like it in part because in that moment, I'm not thinking about, like, going out on stage and, like, oh, I hope I don't trip on that step. Or, you know what I mean? It's just
totally.
like, I'm just shooting the shit with the guys, and that I always enjoy that.
There was one recently, too. This is a great bit that didn't happen, where I texted you. I'm like, are you available right now? You're like,
it was the Nintendo.
You're like, no, I'm in a meeting. I'm like, oh, they're about to do Nintendo Direct, and I wanted to call you and be like, what's it about? What's it like to host Nintendo Direct? You're like, I'm not doing that one. You're like, oh, sorry. We didn't understand. Didn't understand it at all.
That was funny. Yeah, and I was literally in a meeting until it was over, and I was like, they're done. I'm not going to call you now.
We'll get you. I'll use it again because, again, nobody sees all the content. They never know what's going to happen.
It's funny.
It's how you get them, Kev. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's perfect. What else do you want to talk about?
What else do you want to ask me?
Oh, in the show we did back in 2017, one of the things we were talking about is you guys just kind of changed or started to change your review policies, right? Where you weren't sending out early code anymore. Or
Is that right?
Yeah, you weren't sending out advanced code for reviews. You were just dropping it on the day of or whatever, and how you were like, well, you're talking very clearly about like, I've read some reviews and it's just going to be the back of the box. And there's no opinion. You don't know what's going on. They don't talk about this actual thing we put a lot of time into. And you were talking about the fact that reviews coupled with streams and people just playing the game is giving a better overall picture of that. Is that still the case in 2020?
Well, I mean, if you look at the games that we've done since then, there's been any number that have had reviews out like the day before, the day that the
Which
game,
I thought was interesting. Yeah, as I saw you start like, changing a bit. And maybe not, like you said, not every game is the same game.
Well,
where's my Doom code is basically what I'm
the biggest thing that I don't want, and that quite honestly, like that I can't have, is any amount of anybody's review talking about when they got their copy. Like I just think that's wholly unfair to people who have poured so much of themselves and years of their lives into making a game, to have an opening paragraph talk about a review strategy and like when my review copy showed up, as opposed to the thing that you're doing the review on. And
Sure.
That was really the thing that I just don't think that's right. And so we didn't make a big pronouncement. We just sort of here and there changed it when we felt like it was appropriate.
And that was the thing. You didn't make the pronouncement. Everybody else did. Then it was everybody putting up articles that weren't even the review, right? That were like, hey, our review won't be posting because Bethesda isn't sending us and yada, yada.
Yeah. Or again, like the actual review. Like the thing that says, how good is this game? Should you buy it or not? Starts off talking about when my copy of the game showed up, which I don't think that's where the focus should be. It's a really good product. How did you like it? Or not like it, and why?
Not about where the review.
Not about like, yeah, they send it UPS. I'm really more of a FedEx person, and I just like, okay, what?
Get to the point.
Combat,
what do you think of the game?
Graphics, yeah. So,
how often are you? Is it just reviews where you'd say you're checking in the most on in terms of press coverage and stuff like that? Like,
what do you mean?
For you, like an usual day for you, are you on IGN, GameSpot, down the list, seeing what's happening?
Yeah, I graze here and there. But I tend to focus a lot more on like what are we doing right now, and what are we? I mean, in my role, my primary role is not PR. It's not community. It is managing and directing and taking care of a global team that does all of that. They don't need me writing press releases or sending out review copies. So I try and graze and keep up with what's going on, and not just our stuff. Like, well, there's like, I just want to know what's going on in the industry. I play a lot of games. I want to know who's doing what, and or like when everybody's moving their release dates out of the first half of this year. Like, well, I'm particularly interested in that. Like, hey, turns out we might be the only ones left shipping something before E3.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I like to keep up with what everybody else is doing, because like, well, there's a lot of other games that I play that aren't ours. So,
okay. Talk to me about Kotaku. Mainly, are they blacklisted? We had Jason Schreier on in March 2018, and he had said that at the time, basically for like 5 years, they had been off of all Bethesda communications and stuff like that. Not even review copies, even press releases and stuff like that. And I said I didn't realize that, or he had tweeted about it beforehand. And then he's like, oh yeah, well, this is what happened. He explained it. I was like, well, I have Pete Hines on here all the time. I'll ask him. And then 2 years later, I made good on it.
I mean, basically about 100% of the time that I'm in San Fran, so that's not bad.
Exactly, yeah, not bad at all.
That's not something I'm going to talk about. Like, everything that needed to be conveyed to the appropriate people at Kotaku was, and there's a conversation to be had. I would imagine it would be between us and them. I'm not going to go somewhere else, and I don't think that's right.
I'm not going to need to leave about it. Yeah, that's private business stuff, obviously. Okay, but the conversation has happened before. It's done.
I assure you, everything that you would say should have been conveyed and who it should have been conveyed to all took place.
In your role or line of work, I guess, is that a conversation you have often? in terms of like hitting up publications or something to that effect?
No,
Okay.
not really.
Okay.
And I would, not really, not much at all, actually.
Okay.
I mean, folks are gonna, the funny thing is, and you know this having been on that side for a while, but like IGN gives, game X a 7.5. Like, it took me some considerable amount of time at Bethesda before I realized, like, that's not really IGN's score. That's a writer at IGN. Right. Like, either it's somebody on the staff, but like, that doesn't mean everybody at that outlet thinks that of that game. That means the one person who got to review it said that, wrote that, and so you got to take a lot of times with a little bit of salt. Like, well, if you're getting a reviewer who time and time again just seems to not like what you're doing, well, then you mean be like, hey, could somebody else review our stuff that doesn't actually hate us or seem to hate the kind of stuff we make? Like, I mean, this is an extreme example, but I feel like it's a pretty safe one to use, which is way back in the day at Bethesda when so much of my time was taken up by things like PBA bowling and IHRA drag racing, and reading reviews of people had written on IHRA drag racing where the review talked about how boring drag racing was. Like, I mean, that's literally like reviewing a baseball game and saying, like, I don't enjoy baseball. I don't get it. It takes too long. And like, then why are you reviewing? Like, if you don't think drag racing is fun, I don't blame you. I don't think it's particularly fun either. But the question is whether or not this game is a good, fun representation of that for people who like that.
Totally.
If you don't like bowling, why are you reviewing a bowling game? So the conversations are usually more around that, right? It's like, hey, is somebody who likes and plays FPSs going to review our FPS, or are you going to give it to like the sports person? Because that feels weird.
Has that conversation become fewer and far between? Because what you're describing is very much what the IGN I started at. In 2007, I walked in, and guess what? We review every game that comes out.
Right.
Which meant I was playing all sorts of things that I did not have a history in and I didn't have an interest in. And I never tried to hold it against the game, but if I don't at the time, which is true at the time, not anymore, but well, rare occasion now, JRPGs really aren't my jam, right? So when I reviewed Valhalla Knights 2 on PSP, like I remember on my air mattress on a Saturday playing and be like, this is torture. Like I do not like this.
Right.
But it wasn't that the game was bad, it was that I don't click with
it.
It
doesn't, right.
Has that gotten better? Because I feel like when I look around now, it obviously can't speak for every website in the history of the world.
Well,
I feel
also,
like IGN's
also
better.
Full disclosure, like that's just not anything I'm really involved in.
Yeah.
I've got a really great PR team, and so folks like Matt Frary and Nick Patterson and those folks go through and talk about who's doing what. Like I never see it. I trust them to have those conversations. So I don't know how much they are or aren't, because it never gets to me. Do you know what I mean?
No, totally. Yeah. I just want to see like IGN or Callie at GameSpot or whatever. Like I feel like nowadays it is going to the people that are like, I know you don't hate first-person shooter.
Right.
Why don't you play this game?
I certainly can say I haven't gotten the sense that that's going on nearly as much as, to your point, that it used to, where it was literally
just
everything that
everything
comes
has
out.
to go. Yeah.
I mean, IGN just finished running a whole month of stuff on Doom Eternal. So
they're bought and paid for. They're
full disclosure, like IGN, we love you. Thank you for all your Doom Eternal.
That was IGN
I'm glad
first?
you liked the game. Yeah, they did IGN first on it. I just threw that out random because I used to work there, and you have the logo on your sweatshirt. So it was,
we are totally in the tank for IGN. Don't worry. Hey, everybody, it's me, Greg Miller. And when I listen to podcasts, I go to IGN.com.
But I don't know that that's happening to the same extent, conversation-wise, that it used to.
I think one of the things I see from my side now, especially in this weird, I'm a podcast host, influencer, YouTuber, reviewer, critic, whatever, is the push and pull of video game journalism. And like, okay, cool. Is it criticism? Is it that IGN's review? Is its review? Because I don't know if you caught this at the end of last year. IGN was doing this really cool thing where there would be the IGN review, and then there'd be separate days later, or maybe weeks later even, an article that's like, here's how the IGN staff feels about it. And some of them actually had scores from each person. Some of them were just blurbs and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
When you,
by the way, I had not seen that.
You should look it up. Yeah, come
cool.
on, do your research.
Well,
Hines,
there was nothing that I was looking to get reviews on.
Yeah, it's fair.
That I was going to play. It was like,
I think Death Stranding is one of the ones they definitely did. I'll send you some links.
Okay.
When you talk about what you do, and do you feel like you're talking to the press? Do you feel like you're talking to enthusiast media, reviewers, critics?
Yeah, no, we try really hard to just talk sort of one voice to everybody at the same time, right? Like, well, let's talk this way because it's the press we're talking to. It's like, we're just going to talk about Doom Eternal. Like, if you spend any amount of time around Hugo, he is the exact same way with everybody. He's the same with me as he is with you when you're at your judges thing, as he is with fans. Like, he's just Hugo. He's just Marty. Like, those folks are exactly the same in terms of this is how we talk about what we're doing and why we think it's cool or fun. Because that's actually where the idea for the showcase came from, which was me going to Todd and say, look, just do this demo for this thing one time and do it to everybody. And like what you have to say goes to everybody at once, and you don't have to worry about like, well, did the people that you're filtering it through, because they were the only ones, we used to do theaters where it was 60-seat theaters and it was by appointment only. And
I remember it well. Sessler came late in the middle of one of them for Skyrim, and I was pissed at him. Like, sit down, Sessler.
But it was to do that. It was just, look, everybody can watch it. They can pour back through frame by frame if they're a super fan and they want to look for little, tidbits and Easter eggs or like things that some press person might not have written about from the demo because they're keeping it sort of big picture. But I can obsessively go through and go, hey, I think that's this kind of weapon that's sitting on that table. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, the amount of times I'd come back, and I still do, come back from a preview event or something, say what I played or saw, and somebody's like, well, cool. What about this? Did you see this in the menu? I'm like, I never would have looked for that. I can't tell you.
Never even occurred to me, right, to look for that. So I think we try and just speak to, look, if you're interested in this game, like we're going to tell you about this part of it or what's going on. And if you're a press person, then you can go and write about that. If you're a fan, then you can ask more questions and let us know what you want to know more about. If you're a influencer or a podcaster, you can pick us apart, good, bad, and different. I like this. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I think it should be the same.
Okay. Pete Hines, are you ready to enter the friend zone?
I am.
All right. Before we do that, let me tell you about our sponsors, everybody. Hey, it's me, Greg Miller, and we're sponsored today by patreon.com/kindafunny. That's right, everybody. If you didn't know, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny. You can be part of the show. Get your questions read in the friend zone. You could be a Patreon producer like Mohammed.
Did you know that I'm a Kinda Funny Patreon supporter?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to meet a fan.
I was wondering, like, do they know that I'm coming on the thing? And then I got my email. Hey, here's what's going on at Kinda Funny. To the Patreon folks, I'm like, oh, there I am.
All right, you should ask yourself a question. Pete, you're so cool. How do you do it? Patreon producers Mohammed, Justin Toff, Das Bear Jew, Blackjack, and Jarrett Brown. Asterisks. If you're like, wait a second, I'm a Patreon producer. Why didn't my name get read? I supported in February. We're recording this in February. It's posting in March. So there's a chance that in the next few days you sponsored it and we didn't, but Joey will be on it and we'll get it all done there. Remember, of course, like I said, patreon.com/kindafunny. Get your questions read in the friend zone like we're about to. Get the show ad free. Get the not this one, but other shows with post shows and all that jazz. Watch things happen live, not this show, but other shows like that. And then there's something else I wanted to say here. Oh, remember, this is irregularly scheduled programming. We have cool friends. You can get it at iTunes, Spotify, podcast services, maybe still on Podbean. Is that a thing, Barrett? Where do you get it on Zune? You know what I mean? YouTube.com/kindafunny, roosterteeth.com, all the rest. Now you're in the friend zone, where the Kinda Funny best friends write in on patreon.com/kindafunny with their questions. Mitch Krassen says, who is the competitor that you look at their way of marketing and admire how they do it? Have you taken inspiration from others in that way before?
I mean, the short answer is yes. One in particular, not one necessarily that jumps out.
It's not like Mad Men where they do a great ad and you send them some flowers. You're like, great job.
Yeah, no, not really. But probably all the same folks that all of you would notice and pay attention to.
Yeah.
How does Blizzard go about stuff? What does Valve do? What does Rockstar do?
Rockstar just prints money.
Ubi. I mean, honestly, everybody, just because you never know where you're going to see something that somebody did, even if it's the kind of game you don't play for, that you're like, oh, that was really cool or clever. So in general, we just try and continue paying attention between myself and everybody that I work with.
Well, it's that thing too, is what I like about you guys, on top of, like I said, 2015, you start doing conferences, which again was huge and cool. You also still play around with it enough and do things, as I always talk about, in a small big way where I still think of Bethesda as, oh, you're a smaller publisher. You're not. You're ginormous. You put out all these different games, but you're not afraid to open your press conference with just your developers and staff talking, right, about what the players mean to them and how this all happened and what they played and how they got their start and these great packages, right? You'll do the funny thing with like Linda Carter where she's like talking about saving single player games and all this jazz, right? And then you go put up a bunch of multiplayer games and everybody's like,
hey, we do plenty of single player.
Yeah,
by the way, I'm glad you said that you like that we changed it up because we're changing it up again this year.
Cool. Am I hosting it? Get the fuck out of here then. You know what I mean? And I swear to God, if it's Keeley or Andrea, I'll kill you.
Are you saying I need to be replaced? I just want to be.
No, I don't want to. No.
Okay,
You need. You know what I mean? Like this year, we need to get you like a kind of funny button. You know, keep up in the middle of it. You take a kind of funny hat out and put it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You support. Just say patreon.com/kindoffunny in the middle of it. Right? Just say it once. So what's the problem? It's like patting your leg.
Yeah. Subtle.
Is it gonna be crazy? Is it a direct? What are we doing? Are we just doing straight?
We're just changing it up a little bit.
Gonna be in space.
That would be cool.
That's how we're gonna do Starfield. We're gonna come out and actually show.
A little out of my price range.
Well, never look too far. You got all sorts of stuff here going on. It's Brandon, I think, but it's BRANDDNH. So
the traditional spelling. Yeah.
In this, oh wow, this is almost like I planned it, which I didn't. Does E3 feel like a game of escalation in which you are always trying to top yourself from previous years?
No. But the actual challenge is trying not to feel stale, right? Like it's actually legitimately hard to come back and do a showcase, and we just don't want it to feel like I kind of saw all of this. Like even if the games have changed, like you know what I mean, like the cadences and just who's talking and what. I don't want it to feel too familiar.
Yeah, rinse and repeat's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, that's the real challenge.
And it's one of those things I think why we saw PlayStation back off of E3 last year, not this year so much, but last year and all their different stuff of like, are we going to come out and talk about Ghost of Tsushima again? Like, how many times can you come out and say the same things in the same area in the same time of year
before it gets?
Yeah, before people
what's
like
the point?
We talk about rebel against you in general. Like, well, that doesn't look interesting. I've heard about it too much.
Yep.
Games get beat to death that way.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is just always trying to feel like the challenge, of course, is always like I have. How do I put this properly? I have limited control over what we're going to talk about at E3, right? Mm-hmm. Because I am not the studio director of all of the studios making all of our games.
You should be. Should we put in a letter of recommendation somewhere?
If I could have everybody has all of their stuff at an amazing point to show all of it, that makes my life super easy. That never happens, ever, right? So it's always like, well, what does everybody got? How far along are they? What is the plan in terms of when we want to announce and talk about these things and when we plan to release them? And what kind of show does that mean we have based on these different... So it's not just, well, just show like I could make every showcase awesome. Just make Todd at gunpoint talk about his plans for TED 6. Like, yeah, I don't have anything to show you. I'm just going to talk about it. And we would all go, oh my God, this sounds fucking amazing, right? But he's not going to do that. Not even at gunpoint. So now...
Shoot me.
Right? Like, now what do I do? Because I can't just make him talk about TED 6 for 30 minutes every year. So you've got to figure out what do we actually have to show. And that's a big thing for me. I think we want to do even more of than we have in the past, which is like show the games. Let the games do the talking.
Speaking of at gunpoint or just pressure of E3 and all this jazz, do you think do you feel a pressure where you have to do it? Like you have to do a press conference. You don't want to take a year off. I know that you guys have so many projects going at any point in time that there's always something to show, but do you worry about it being like, well, we're going to put out this week conference this year?
A little, yeah. Like that we've now set this expectation, like, well, you've done it 5 years in a row. If you skip a year now, what does that mean? What kind of message does that send? But at the same time, we have a lot of stuff going on, and every year can't be the year that you talk about Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield for 30 minutes. So if you only do it those years, then you're not going to do it all that often because Todd takes a while to make his stuff. So
sure, get the gunpoint out.
Yeah, well, at this point in his career, I don't even think gunpoint works. So yeah, but we talk about it, but we try and say, look, what is it that we've got to talk about and show, and how do we put that forward in the best way possible? That will be the kind of stuff we think our fans will want. And I remember you talking about this last year after you did our show, which is like the Elder Scrolls Online stuff. Like, we're going to talk about that every year because there's a large number of folks who have played it, but clearly it's not everybody. So there's some number of folks that are just like, okay, this is where I go to the bathroom because I don't ever play MMOs, so I'm not interested. But there's some amount of audience, either existing, lapsed, or maybe folks that have yet to try it, that like, hey, maybe this is the thing that gets you to jump in. Because every year, 1 million plus folks decide to jump in now. I don't know what changed from 4 years ago, but
the content looks cool, right? It grabs
and they
you,
decide to try it. So like, you do have a little bit of that. Like, well, this isn't necessarily for me, but well, it's for somebody. You got to speak to a lot of different audiences.
I know it's a tired story for people who watch everything, but like, Adam Boyes, after one of the PSXs when he was still at PlayStation, talked to us about it. It's like, there's no world where we're going to show you 10 games and you're going to be into all of them.
Yeah,
we want you to be into 3 games really hard.
Yep.
And when that means that there's going to be games that are bathroom breaks or things that don't speak to you or whatever. And it's that important thing of pacing, and then if you're being a commentator or whatever, not rolling your eyes. There's an audience for that. You're showing Elder Scrolls because guess what? It still has an audience.
Right.
Yeah. Final friend zone question comes from Matt Exposure, parentheses, Madeline Stanley.
Okay.
We'll call you Madeline, or we'll call you Matt Exposure.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Hi, Pete. I think a lot of PR and marketing professionals would tell you that it can be really risky to get political. But you came out with a strong fuck Nazis stance during your promotion of Wolfenstein, which I love, by the way. What made you and Bethesda decide to get political, and do you feel like it has changed the way you communicate with the fans? Do you stand by fuck Nazis?
Fuck Nazis.
We back that as well.
This is going to sound stupid. First of all, I should caveat it with, I am one of the least political people that you'll ever meet. I've lived in Washington, D.C. forever. I do not care about politics. I do not read politics. I mute any word that starts popping up because I don't care. Mm-hmm. I genuinely don't view fuck Nazis as a political message.
Right?
It sort of got spun up into take one, but it's just one of those like,
this is what we're arguing about?
They're Nazis. Like, is that politics, or is that just like
basic humanity?
Be a decent human being and don't like the guys who want to exterminate or kill people who don't look like. How is that? So that's my thing. I know there was so much discussion around that. Like, well, you're referring to this and you're referring to that. Like, we're referring to Nazis, and I don't care what party you're in. I thought we were all on the same page that those guys are bad. Like, 30s and 40s. Anybody read this? Like, come up in history, world history at any point? Like, I got some books I'm happy to share with you about some of the shit that was going on. Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it's okay if people take it that way, but I've just never viewed that as we're making a political statement. It was more of a like, just be a decent human.
Were you surprised to get off stage and look at the phone and be like, why are people flipping out about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
The one, I remember this vividly. I don't know if you ever saw the Vice thing that they did.
I don't know.
Vice, they had that like half-hour show on HBO.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant about Bethesda. I was like, I don't remember.
No, they did one on Wolfenstein.
Oh, no, never.
Yeah, they did one on Wolfenstein, and this whole like people getting upset because of the whole Nazi thing and us addressing it, and we were like,
the whole Nazi thing.
Like, Wolfenstein has always been about killing Nazis. We didn't just make this up. Like, this is
we're taking it in a bold new direction for Wolfenstein.
But I will never forget this. I'm standing there, and the guy's asking me a question. And Nick Patterson, who's our senior PR manager, is standing behind him over there, like over his shoulder. And the guy's like, you're kind of kicking the hornet's nest here a little bit. And I was like, yeah, but the hornet's nest is full of Nazis, so fuck those guys. And I see Nick react behind him, and I'm trying to, like, I know I'm on camera, so I'm trying not to react to Nick reacting. Yeah. But I'm like, he either thinks that was really funny and good what he said, or he's like, oh my God, you're like, this is a PR nightmare. And I genuinely didn't know, like,
which one it was?
He was like, oh, that's a clip for sure. He's like, Pete, I'm telling you, that's going to be on social media. They're putting that up the second that hits. I was like, really? And he's like, oh, yeah, that was pretty good. So
Pete Hines, the fuck Nazis guy.
So I knew that was the one I remembered the most, but only because I saw in real time Nick reacting to what I had said.
You had a test audience. You're like, oh, shit, this one's playing well.
That resonated. Okay.
Pete Hines. Thank you for making the time to come
Absolutely.
in here. But don't stay away for 3 years this time. You know
I promise I will not. You have my solemn promise. I will be back for the new studio.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah,
or like I want to come check out the new
two bathrooms.
Wow.
It'll be great.
No,
yeah,
no line, no waiting.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly. Well, they'll still be waiting. I'm sure there's too many of us. But yeah.
No, I will make sure we shorten the time in between appearances. I love coming by to see you guys.
We love having you. You're always so refreshing to come in. Thank you so much for coming in and being honest.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, this is We Have Cool Friends, your irregularly scheduled, kind of funny programming. There will be a We Have Cool Friends next week. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You have homework to do. It's required viewing. You need to watch the documentary Not for Resale. It's about a video game resale shop or video game resale shops in general. I'm in it, full disclosure. I don't get a cut of it, though, so I don't care if you buy it or if you steal it. However, the creator of it, Kevin J. James, not Kevin James, the King of Queens, Kevin J. James, will be in here for the next We Have Cool Friends next week to talk all about making that movie.
Nice.
So you have to go do homework.
And also, since Kevin J. James is going to be in here, don't steal it. Just like actually legit watch it.
Yeah, it'd be right for the best. It's on Amazon and iTunes and all that jazz. Yeah. You know what I mean, Kevin? You remember, you were there on this interview. Remember this? This is the right before I got hurt at that PAX East. Remember? When Dan Reichert, he fell on my ribs real hard. But I had to go do that interview, and they made us move around a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what I mean? PAX East. Who needs it? Not me. You going?
Yeah.
Oh, well, be careful.
I am.
Coronavirus. Oh, you know what? This goes up after PAX East, so if you've caught coronavirus, this is your final healthy
good
appearance.
Knowing all of you and you as well.
People will be in the comments like, I thought Pete Hines was dead of coronavirus.
When you
Why
speak
is he
of me, speak well. That's all I ask.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.